The bosses of Pizza Tower are the worst aspect of this game. Yeah, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. They're still pretty solid and are definitely a good addition to the game. I'm gonna go through and see what these bosses do, and what they did good, what they did bad, and what makes a good platformer boss. Then I'll go over the flaws of bosses in Pizza Tower and why it's the weakest aspect of this great game. So join me as I tell you the worst part of Pizza Tower is the bosses. Before we start, if you don't mind, make sure to like and subscribe. It barely takes any time and it'd mean the world, as we just hit 600 subscribers, and the more the merrier. The first boss is Pepperman, and honestly, he's not a bad start. He's a huge pepper, and he wants to be an artist, yet he's very egotistical and only makes art of himself, which is quite funny. He starts the fight trying to shoulder bash you in a few ways. Then later on, he starts jumping all over the place and trying to slam down on you. He will kinda just repeat these few actions a bunch of times, but during the fight, some paintings and statues will come into the fray, sliding, falling, and shimmying around the map. Then after more hits, he'll start charging all over the place, and the only way you can stop him is by carving a statue of himself that he admires. Egotistical prick. Anyways. And after you deplete his health bar, you do phase 2, where the background starts lighting up, and now there's these big Pepperman Knight statues that'll slide across the floor, as well as him just being quicker, and the statue taking more hits to carve. After you take out phase 2, he will go into this mini form, where you can hit him and win the fight. He also has such an incredible boss theme. For such a simple boss, the chiptune works so well, and the electric guitar is amazing. Mr. Sauceman absolutely cooked. Have a listen. First off, the things Pepperman did good is that he's a great first boss. He's at the perfect difficulty, where it can be semi-challenging for, first-time players, while also being fair. A problem I have with the fight, though, is that round 1 and round 2 feel a bit too similar. I would honestly like it if Pepperman went even a teeny bit quicker, or just had more attacks in round 2. And I do think he is really easy, and even though he's a tutorial rank, he could have been a bit harder. Like, this is by far the easiest P rank in the game, by a pretty good margin. And this is due to how you get P ranks in bosses. I don't like how you get P ranks in bosses, but I will get into this way later. It's a simple fight, which it's just strengths and weakness. And honestly, it's pretty neat for a first boss. The boss of the Western District is the Vigilante. This is, in my opinion, the weakest of boss fights by a decent amount. I don't like the Vigilante. It's just a cheese slime with a hat. And yeah, it has that gun and it has that boots, but those are only for certain attacks. Those aren't really part of the design. They are, but you barely see them. And I think just a little funny slime with artillery power is neat, but that's about it. It doesn't really do much for me. But let's get into the fight. It starts with the Vigilante throwing you a gun crate, and if you don't pick him up, he gets pretty annoyed at you, which fair. He challenged you for a duel and you just won't duel. I'd be pretty mad too. He'll start shooting and slide kicking you to start. He'll go through different projectiles, like throwing dynamite sticks, shooting his Uzi, shooting his rocket launcher, or using his flamethrower, or even summoning his dead grandpa, John E. Cheese. Pretty normal weapon stuff. Then I'll use the bouncing cow from Oregon Desert as a big bouncy hitbox. God, I love this game. Then after you finish phase 1, more projectiles will come, and the background changes to a sunset sky drop, where you can only see the silhouettes of Peppino and the Vigilante. And after you take away the final hit point, this is such a good way to end off a just okay to mediocre boss fight. The theme of this song is just fine. I don't really have any strong opinions on Kala's zonification, but you know what's good? It fits the song, it works as a boss theme. Vigilante fits the Western theme perfectly, while other bosses like the Doise or Big Peppino fit their theme decently well. The Vigilante knocks it out of the park. The change of set piece is fun, and him spawning his dead grandpa John E. Cheese is neat, but he also has a lot of problems with the fight. You know, it didn't do too much well in my opinion. For one, the gun. I just don't find the revolver interesting. Restricting Peppino's movement so much just to have like a long range attack isn't fun. It's more fun to like try and stay up and close with the enemies to, you know, get a hit in quickly. But, you know, when you're far away, you're kind of just camping the boss. 2, the boss is way too easy for this point of the game. And I don't know if it's entirely intentional, but you can take him down so easily. The boss, it takes 8 bullets to take a hit point off of him. But you can charge up the revolver to do a big hit that does 6. Whenever he takes a hit point, he rushes to the other side of the stage. But the thing is, the big bullet does so much damage, and you can just charge it up while he's going. So when he comes up, he gets hit. Then you spray him 2 more times, and his hit point's gone. He barely has time to get any attacks, except for the rocket launcher attack. And it just makes it a lot less fun. And it's like, yeah, I tried in the footage to play it like a lot more vanilla, a lot more fair. But even then, it's just like, doesn't even feel that cheesy. It just feels like the fight was not designed well, as it's not hard to just like cheese him before he can do an attack. It was kind of like hard to resist in a way. And it's just a pretty mediocre boss, and I just find the Vigilante a boring character and boss, so overall it's not great. It's like the one level I gave D tier on my tier list. Next we got the worldwide sensation, the Doise. The Doise is by far the most popular boss in the game, being a rival to Peppino, and he's just a little guy. He's so liked that the developers made him a playable character in the Doise update. Bro had a whole DLC featured around him. Bro's insane. And he's honestly one of the best bosses in the game. Most of the bosses wish they could get a quarter of the fame the Doise has. He's just a goblin. Fucker does not care. He just wants Peppino dead, and it's the funniest shit. And honestly, to revel in his greatness, you'll just have to see the fight. The Doise starts by flipping you off in the fight. This is just so funny. But honestly, the cherry on top about this beginning is if you're quick enough by dashing at the very beginning and, you know, doing some decent movement. It's not impossible, but, you know, it's not free either. You can wipe that satisfying smirk off his face and actually get a hit in. It's so satisfying to do to just like bitch slap him. The noise works different for every boss. He doesn't have a set order of attacks like literally every other boss. This guy's insane. He's so random and quirky. And yeah, he has insane times where he has 3 different versions of an attack, and his attacks are random. They're not in a separate order. For example, the first time he uses an attack, he will do the most simplest form of the attack. For example, on the noise balloon attack, on the first time he uses it, he'll only drop 1 bomb before slamming down. Then there's the normal variant of the attack. For example, for the balloon that we were going with earlier, he'll drop 2 bombs before slamming. And then there's the crazy version of the attack, which will happen on phase 2. Which, for example, the balloon we're using, he'll throw 2 bombs, slam down, and then explode when you get close. Because that wasn't a fucking bomb he threw. That was just a exploding noise. And yeah, then the noise slams down for real and you can hurt him. And he has these simple kind of attacks for every single fight. Like, he has the pogo stick attack, which is pretty neat. He has the skateboard attack and the rocket launcher attack. And he's just a really fun boss. And it's nice that he's not too predictable, because it fits his character. And him being random is just way more fun to fight than like the same boss over and over again. And after you kill him, this little interaction happens. The song, Pumping Hot Stuff, is great. It almost feels out of this world at the beginning, and that's just followed by good music. And the main instrument and the melody kind of sound like altered versions of the taunt sound, which fits perfectly for the noise. And the laughs during the song just sell the noise feel. The noise fight feels the most in character of all the bosses. It feels like he's playing around with you and not taking the fight seriously at all. And when you beat him senseless in a phase 2 and he's still joking around, you know, he's just like chilling. But when you beat him at the end of phase 2, he locks the fuck in and pulls out a minigun and gets ready to blow your brains out before the Noisette comes and takes him out, which is just so funny the first time. It adds so much to the fight. You know, you can tell Poor Pizza likes the noise the best, considering he's a playable character, and you know, in the Pizza Tower comic strip, it's literally called Peppino and Noise, or something along the lines of that. And compared to the other fights, it being completely random just adds so much, and it's not a repetitive P rank. My only problem is that the pogo attack is kind of annoying sometimes, and that's about it. It's a great boss, and an insane step up from the first 2. Now time for a quick detour to talk about the Doise. He's the Noise, except with different colors, and he's the World 3 boss if you're playing as the Noise, because you know, the Noise can't fight himself, even though he probably would. I just think it's funny that it's just straight up a copy of the Noise. That's just neat, and it's a great touch that you're not just fighting the Noise again. The fight is literally just the Noise fight, but a bit harder, because those noise bombs that the Noise threw in his balloon attack are now just rocks, and in my opinion, the rocks, how they bounce, is a little bit harder to deal with than the bombs, so it is like 1% harder. The theme in Pasta Syndrome is like a slightly worse pumping hot stuff in my opinion. And it sells the whole copy of the noise, but like doing it worse thing than it has going on. The Doise feels like an alien copy of the noise because of the interesting background. It almost feels like the fake Peppino version for the noise, but like fake Peppinos with the noise, so it's interesting. And my main really concern about the fight is that I wish it was changed a bit more. Like, I love the idea of it being like this changing cell because of the background that's like trying to copy the noise but doing it worse. Almost like Samus and Dark Samus. But they don't really do too much with that. It's mainly just the rocks over noise bombs. Like, maybe you could have replaced the other attacks with very similar, but not exactly the same kind of attacks. And that's kind of just the worst part about the fight. It's just like the noise fight, but with like nothing better really besides that one harder attack. And the end credit scene though is just funny. The Doise gets killed by this pink Peppino called Peppino. And that's just funny. It's just like brutally murdered for no reason. Also cool thing, the Doise and Peppino were originally a fan recolor that Torta Pizza added into the game because, they liked it. And then they proceeded to mercilessly kill this fan creation because lol, why not? And it's a funny little addition to the noise DLC that could have been a bit more grand, but it's fine how it is, I guess. It's there, and I don't mind it. Next, we have Fake Peppino. This is the second favorite boss in terms of, the character. He's such a silly little Billy. He feels like some Lovecraftian, like, evil monster, but he also just seems like a pal. Like, I want him to be my friend. And he's like a complete opposite to Peppino, and he's just silly and goofy instead of on edge all the time. It's kind of just amazing. His fight revolves around using Peppino's moveset in different ways. Like, you use the super jump and you jump around in a frog up and down off the ceiling almost like a pinball. He uses the dash and he runs around all over the walls almost like a hamster running in a ball. And, he's just like a slimy Italian bullet train. He also spawns clones in between the parts where you can hit him, where they do different attacks together. And sometimes they mix and match attacks in like phase 2. They try to go up on the ceiling and crash down on you. They try to like jump around and hit you. And they try to throw your heads at you, as well as super taunting to spawn projectiles to hit you. After you finish phase 1, Peppino, they'll do attacks at the same time. Like, sometimes the main fake Peppino will be running around the walls while the clones are throwing heads at you, or stuff like that. It's quite hectic, but it's really fun to do, and it feels really satisfying to like parry the clones at that one part when they go up and then you have to go to the middle where the safe section is. And it's kind of decently hard to hit fake Peppino in phase 2, because you have to be mindful of the stray clones running around, and it makes for a pretty fun, hectic boss fight, and it's probably my favorite boss fight so far. The fight also has the best music by a slight margin. Pizza Time Never Ends is a bop that fits fake Peppino's shtick so well, of trying to be like Peppino, trying to copy like the Pizza Tower main theme almost, it's pizza time. But not quite getting there. It's just feeling like slightly off to the point of it being creepy. It like feels melancholic, and honestly, I can't give it the justice because it's a 5-minute song, but I would just like listen to it for yourself. It's really good. After you take out fake Peppino, you get sent to the basement, and you have to run away from the fake Peppino's true form. A gaping mouth is ready to eat you whole, and all you can do is run and run and run. Its design is really cool. I don't know why, it kind of reminds me of Pac-Man because of the big mouth. I don't know why. But this section is so easy. Like, it's a really cool cinematic to end the fight, but like, you're probably not going to take damage unless you were like me and you were trying to get fake Peppino into the frame. Because most of the time you run so quickly that fake Peppino is just out of sight. The theme, OK Campers, Rise and Shine, is an incredible name, by the way. It's just surprisingly good, and it's really intense for such an easy section. The evil laughs put in really sell it, and that random guitar riff at the end absolutely cooks for literally no reason. It's just like, we're done with this super intense thing, now let's have this heavenly guitar. And it kind of feels like fake Peppino just got a bunch of clones and he's like, quick, the song's about to end, do some like heavenly ass guitar riff. And they did. Here's that. The fight is great. Fake Peppino is so goofy, and he does an incredible job at feeling and making you spiral into insanity. With the song helping that too. You know, it's just constantly repeating. Peppino's going more and more insane with more and more clones doing crazy stuff. It's a really just great feel. And I love how Fake Peppino and the clones change costume depending on what you're wearing. It's a neat little charm, and it even changes on the main title card thing for the fight. And it just makes Fake Peppino feel more like a hive mind that's just like trying to like make Peppino join the hive mind of the goofy Fake Peppino clones. And the main problem with the fight is I wish the chase was a bit harder. Like, you don't really see Fake Peppino unless you're being like me, where I was trying to be slow to get Fake Peppino into the phase. Because, like, if you're just doing it normally and just holding sprint normally, you're just never seeing him. And that's kind of a shame. Next, we have the main man himself. The whole reason Peppino's scaling the titular pizza tower. It's Pizza Face / Pizza Head. And it's such a fun boss. I don't find Pizza Face that interesting, but words cannot describe how much I love Pizza Head. He's actually just so fun and goofy. He's in like my top 10 characters of all time. He's so maniacally evil, and he's just silly, and I just love the way he kind of gives this like Tumblr sexy man vibe for some reason, and he's just too maniacally evil for his own good. He doesn't take Peppino seriously at all, and it's so funny. It feels like kind of like the noise. He's just like toying with Peppino, and it's so neat. And the rubber hose style works so well. And it's just a great character for a great fight. Phase 1 is pretty simple. Pizza Face will fly above you, spewing down enemies. You pick up those enemies and you throw them at Pizza Face while dodging his attacks, and when you get your golden opportunity to throw the enemies into Pizza Face to damage them. And you know, this is a pretty simple idea. It's a pretty simple fight, and it kind of puts you off edge for Phase 2. The theme is pretty great. I really like how it begins with the electric guitar, and it just has this weird alien feel. And then close to the end of the song, you can kind of tell that it's like going into Phase 2. It's definitely the weakest of the three by quite a bit, but you know, some of the parts feel wrong without the context of Expectancy Part 2 and 3. Like, if you had the context of the other songs, this just feels like a bit more like naked. But you know, as a song, it's pretty good. I really like it. Phase 2 starts with the reveal that Pizza Face is actually a robot controlled by Pizza Head. The fight starts with Pizza Head casually tossing you a revolver, in a similar vein to the Vigilante, but I think it's handled a lot better here. He has some annoying attacks, like he throws the annoying rats, like a baseball, he shoots himself with the Uzi from the Vigilante fight, and you have to like dodge the shrapnel that's being fired off. Or you have to dodge the fucking TV save files as a part of an attack, which is so cool. It's like he's breaking the fourth wall because he has like all this epic power. Or sometimes he'll lift up the sword from Pizzascape, and the fact that he is so unworthy that a bunch of Fork Knights freak out and drop their weapons is just so funny. The background of the fight is so cool, with the floating save state TV heads having Pizza Face on them, and it's just really cool that the Pizza Head TVs are just like floating back there. It almost feels like this is like his special dimension or something like that. And it's just a fun bullet hell. The song is such a step up from Unexpectancy Part 1. I love the samples saying, you want what, you don't want, you want, you don't want, you want, you don't want, just repeated. And it's twisted in kind of like a horror-ish way. The song sounds like a 30s cartoons in some parts, which works perfectly with Pizza Head's rubber hosed animation kind of feel, and it almost feels like he's breaking the universe when they occasionally just throw in some like old ass 30s cartoon section in the song. It sounds really good, especially with the hard ass guitar section at the end. It's just a really solid song and is definitely a really good way to give Pizza Head some good characterization. Phase 3 is so cool. Pizza Head fakes his own death and then does his cute little spin and brings out the boss cam. Then the other 4 bosses come out and Peppino finally snaps. After the whole game of being under insane pressure and trying to not get his fucking restaurant blown up, he finally snaps and goes ballistic. You're refighting the 4 bosses, except when you hit him once, Peppino does this crazy wombo combo on him, doing a huge chunk of their health. It's just refights, but damn, it's so cool. And usually I don't really like boss refights, I kind of find them lazy, but here it fits so well and it works perfectly. You go through Pepperman as when the bosses come out after he snaps, and then you go crazy on the Vigilante, but there's a problem. You know, there's no gun against the Vigilante, but the mighty Gustavo comes up. You know what you do to award a sacrifice? You chuck him at the boss like he's a projectile. Poor Gustavo, but it is so funny to just use him as a projectile, because all he wanted to do was try help, and he keeps climbing up. It's like, hashtag justice for Gustavo. Bro's getting abused at this point. And he stays for the rest of the fight, so you can either run up and hit him, or you can throw Gustavo at them to get them go vulnerable, and it works really well. And after going through the noise and fake Peppino, Pizza Head comes out. He has some sumo slams attacks, some boxing gloves, a couple somersaults, and hey, even like a fucking fly swatter attack. And after you take out all his health points, after you take out the main man, Pizza Head, it just feels so damn nice. The song is so intense, and the fact they use leitmotifs from Oregano Mirage, The Death I Deserve Ioli, and Celsius Troubles is really damn cool. Just have a listen. There's also the noise unexpectancy, which in my opinion is worse, but it's still a really, really good song that I quite enjoy. There's a lot this boss does well. To start, the shower scene, pretty silly. That twist after phase 1 actually got me. It's a really neat surprise, even though, to be honest, it doesn't really do much. It's like a pizza face to a pizza head. It's not too big of a shift. The background of the level is really cool. The fact that you see outside for like the first time in the whole game, and the little Peppino's pizzeria there, it's neat, and the thunder setting is just cool. And that ending cutscene is just chef's kiss. It's so unbelievably cool to watch. As well as the crumbling Tower of Pisa, which doesn't count for this list, as that is a level and not a part of the boss fight. It's just cool though. You know, you can't really go wrong with it. This is just a great fight, but I've said a lot already. So now let's go on to what makes a good boss fight. Now time to tell you what makes a good boss fight for a 2D platformer. I have 4 rules. It has to be fun, has to be a good challenge for the player at that point of the game, has to use the game mechanics well, and has to be memorable. A good example of a 2D boss fight that fits all of these criteria as well is the Devil from Cuphead. It has a good difficulty balance for, you know, a first time playthrough at the end of the game. It uses a lot of the game's mechanics like ducking under the ram attack, parrying the tears, as well as the pink like flames and different attacks in phase 1, and like dashing from platform to platform. You know, it uses all of Cuphead's mechanics well. It's very memorable, as you know, before the fight there's the cutscenes as well as the end, and it is just very memorable because of like all the different attacks, you know, the devil transforming. You know, it sticks in the player's mind. You know, it is fun, it's quite a fun boss to do, and overall it is just really good at fitting all these criteria and being just a really good boss fight that's great from beginning to end. Pizza Tower's fights do this decently well. They are memorable. They're pretty fun except for the Vigilante. They all are perfectly tuned difficulty for their world, which is something that this game bosses does really, really good. The way the bosses kind of fall off is the game mechanics. I wish they used more of Peppino's moveset, mainly on how you attack the boss. It's basically always just dashing into them, and yeah, you can use other attacks, but it's designed to be dashing in. It'd be cool if there was a phase in a boss where you'd have to hit it with a super jump, or the uppercut, or even a taunt, or something like that. But no, it's mainly just the dashing. It's like, imagine you would have to, instead of like waiting for the noise to come down in its balloon attack, Imagine you would have to super jump and then dash into it from the sky from a super jump to attack. That'd be so cool. Or maybe you'd have to like uppercut Noise's pogo attack or something like that. But instead of that, we just have just not really creative ways to hit the boss, which sucks. Imagine, instead of using the stupid revolver, you'd have to parry all of the Vigilante's attacks, and that's its gimmick. That would be so cool, and it'd be a great way to make the boss more interesting, as well as kind of introducing the players more to the parry. And it would have worked great. Overall, these bosses are pretty good, but they do have problems, and let me tell you why they're the weakest aspect of this game. The thing is that these bosses are great for the game. They improve it, yet they're still the worst aspect of the game. Why? Because what else could the worst aspect of this great game be? Not the graphics, not the music, not the levels, not the P ranks or the completion stuff. It's like, it only really leaves the bosses, which sucks, but these are still a valuable part of the game that deserve to be here. And the thing about the bosses that kind of hold them back is P ranking. P ranking is such a fun mechanic in the normal levels, but I just do not like them in the bosses at all. And here's why. I don't like how P ranks work in bosses. It's just so boring, and for some fights it just fundamentally doesn't work. Mainly Pizza Face Phase 2 with the noise. I haven't mentioned him before, but the noise works differently in bosses. You know, instead of dashing and hitting the boss, he throws noise bombs at them, which for most fights it works fine. It's a nice way to like change up the pace. But for Pizza Face Phase 2, it takes 8 bombs to take a hit point off, and this is just why the system of not getting hit fundamentally doesn't work. It's just boring, and it just takes way too long for a lot of fights. Honestly, I would have preferred it if there was maybe like a list of things you had to do, like the P ranks normal levels. Like, maybe you could have a combo meter where you'd have to hit the boss like quickly enough, so you'd have to do stuff like canceling fake Peppino's attacks, or stuff that you can quickly hit the boss so you can optimize it and get the P rank. Or maybe there was a time limit, or maybe even like a refight lap 2 kind of thing with the boss, where you fight the boss where the attacks are a lot stronger, a lot quicker, and you know, have a timer, stricter time limit. And it would just seem way more interesting than Don't Get Hit, and it's sadly kind of a missed opportunity that doesn't really mesh with the rest of the game. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and join the Discord if you want updates on when I'm streaming, or if you just want to hang out. Well anyways, so until next time,